welcome to my channel. Now, if you're wondering why the bookshelf's looking a little bare, I decided to do one of those booktube tag challenge things. I recently saw on Merphy Napier's channel the Reread, Rewrite, Burn challenge, and I thought that sounded like a lot of fun, and so I figured I would give it a shot here. So I've got my trusty mug here, and in it I have 12 titles of, I stuck generally to series, and I included old favorites, new favorites, things that I read more recently versus a long time ago, and kind of all around different publishing order too, for when these books came out. So with that, let's get started here and see what our first three choices will be. So we have Chronicles of Prydain, Chronicles of Thomas Covenant the Unbeliever. We're starting out with lots of Chronicles, apparently. And The Demon Cycle. So we're starting with a really interesting selection here, because we have the Prydain Chronicles by Lloyd Alexander, and this series was written and published in the 60s and was the first fantasy that I ever read, so definitely holds a very special place for me, so getting a bit difficult there. We have the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant the Unbeliever. This is the first trilogy, so this is actually back from in the 80s, and this is something I read more recently, but really enjoyed, and have to say that it was very well done in a lot of ways. And then we have the Demon Cycle, which is by Peter Brett. I think I forgot to note that Thomas Covenant is Stephen R. Donaldson. Most people are probably at least a little bit familiar with it, been around a really long time. But the Demon Cycle, starting with A Worded Man by Peter Brett. And this was something too, I was recommended this book, and it took me a while to pick it up, and then I immediately had to read the rest of the series. I thought it was really well done modern fantasy here. So this is something that is a difficult, and I knew this was going to be hard, and that's kind of why I thought it would be a fun challenge to do. I'm going to try and figure out the burn first. I think, honestly, this is hard to do, but I think I'd have to say burn Chronicles of Prydain. Not because I don't love them, but for the longest time, before I found out this is what it was, I didn't remember what the books were. I remembered reading them as a small child, and it was just kind of this experience that was in my head. So I figure if I burn this, it doesn't exist anymore, I'll still have those stories, and it'll still be that deeply personal story for me. So I think I can safely let it burn. I do think the rewrite one is super easy, and that's definitely going to be Thomas Covenant. And while these books are fantastic, and the trilogy is just a masterpiece, there was some things in the first book, but one specific thing in the second book. You can check out my review for the Ill Earth War if you want more. I don't want to spoil on this video, but there was one specific thing I just thought was completely unnecessary, and was one of the few blots on that book in the trilogy. So I think rewriting, just take that out. And I guess that means rereading the Demon Cycle, which I've only actually read through one time, so definitely wouldn't mind going through again that way as well. Let's see what we've got next. Okay, so we have the First Law trilogy. We have Stormlight Archive. I feel like that's cheating. I'm rereading that right now. And Mistborn. Oh, so two Sandersons and an Abercrombie. That is... that's going to be really interesting to try to figure out here. This is definitely going to be a hard one. So, first up, Stormlight Archive, Brandon Sanderson, first book, The Way of Kings. Most people are pretty familiar with this. It's an insanely popular series, and for good reason. And without even thinking about it, this is going to have to be the reread. Like I said, I'm rereading right now for the upcoming release of Rhythm of War. I reread the books up to the new one every time a new one comes out, and I almost enjoy them more every time I go through. So can't touch it, definitely can't burn it. That is for sure going to have to be the reread. But then I ran into some problems, because I don't want to burn either one of these. You have Mistborn, also by Brandon Sanderson. I was doing the first trilogy, so starting with The Final Empire. I don't actually like this cover nearly as much as the paperbacks, but that's neither here nor there. And the blade itself, Joe Abercrombie, first of the First Law trilogy. Now, I did have some issues with the First Law trilogy, so that's where immediately I think of ways that I could rewrite, but at the same time, I don't want to burn Mistborn, and so this one is really, really difficult in general to decide. I can't send Mistborn to the burn, so I guess I'm having to burn First Law. Sorry, Joe Abercrombie. I don't really know what I would rewrite about Mistborn. Maybe some of the, kind of love quadrangle scenes you had with Vin. I think those could probably be tamped down a little bit, but with some of the early Sanderson I read, and something I have reread too multiple times and absolutely love as well. So I guess that's what I'm going to have to go for. Alright, so only 2 sets of 3 left. Let's see what else we got. I actually grabbed 2. We'll use both. We have Lightbringer. We have Lycanius. 2 newer series here. And we have Wheel of Time. Ooh, so 2 new and then the classic. So let's see here. This is another one where it's going to be interesting, and you can probably guess quite immediately that Wheel of Time is going to be the reread. I might actually have to think about that. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I'm still thinking through it. But I think virtually everybody knows Wheel of Time. I actually grabbed the last book, Memory of Light, instead of Eye of the World. Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan is just one of the most well-known, besides maybe Song of Ice and Fire, type fantasies, so probably not a huge introduction needed there. We have Lightbringer, first book, The Black Prism by Brent Weeks. And this was a series I picked up after watching Daniel Green's recommendations for it, and I just really, really loved it. It was so fresh, it had such a crazy, interesting magic system, and was really well written, really, really great characters in general. And then Lycanius, first book, Shadow of What Was Lost, this one by James Islington. And this was one I randomly actually picked up just at a bookstore. I saw and I looked at it and it said for fans of The Wheel of Time and Brandon Sanderson. I'm like, that's me. I'm supposed to read this book. So picked it up. And though it had some flaws, I thought it showed a lot of promise and was just a really well done for a new series here. But this is hard because once again, I don't dislike any of these at all. But there's an argument to be made for doing some rewriting of Wheel of Time and Lightbringer, I think. Wheel of Time to condense the slog, and maybe if we would have had that, could have had had Robert Jordan finish the whole thing versus having Brandon Sanderson come in. Granted, I didn't dislike what Brandon Sanderson did. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of him also. And Lightbringer I love, but the end was kind of for me. With it as well. I think, unfortunately, though I really liked it and it was a really fun series, that means, though, I'm going to have to put Lycanius in the burn pile because I can't do that to the other 2 at all. And I'm going to have to say, I think I am going to have to stick with Reread of Wheel of Time. It's one of those things, there are some things that could change, but it's also, I've never reread a series more, and I love it, even the slow parts. And some of the really slow writing is just something that makes it so great as well, so I can't. And we'll go with the rewrite for Lightbringer and just change the ending a little bit, because that was one of the few things that I wasn't huge on in the series overall. There's only 3 left, and I already know what they are, but just to make sure that you know that I'm not making this all up, I will draw the names out. And we have Malazan Book of the Fallen. We have the Broken Empire and the Gentleman Bastard. So I do think it's funny that I ended up with all paperbacks for the last one. But we have Malazan Book of the Fallen, first book, Gardens of the Moon by Stephen Erickson. This series, so fantastic. It's so well done. It was one that took me a long time to get through because of the way that it's written as well. Gentleman Bastard, first book, Lies of Loch Lamore, pretty well known by Scott Lynch. one of the greatest first books I've ever read. The rest of the series is really good as well too, and someday maybe we'll have the rest coming in. And then Broken Empire, I grabbed the third book, Emperor of Thorns. First one's Prince of Thorns. It is Prince of Thorns, right? Yeah, it's Prince of Thorns. It's behind me on the shelf. And this was one I read pretty recently, going through it, and I really enjoyed that series as well here. This is going to definitely be hard. I'm going to have to go with Malazan for a reread. And the reason is, I've actually been meaning to do a reread of Malazan specifically because it took me so long to get through the first time. I had the tendency to really slog through the first half and then just be completely hooked for the second half and repeat on every book. So I really do, the ending and just the scope of the series is unrivaled by anything, and really something that deserves a reread. And this is, man, this is going to be difficult here. Can I say that I would burn Lies of Lockelmore temporarily so that I wouldn't have read it and then be stuck waiting for the rest, but that it would be written later? Because that would be good. I love the book. I really want to finish the series. It's definitely something that's taking quite a long time. But I don't know. I honestly can't really say what I would rewrite with it. They're really well written, and the second two books dipped a little bit in quality, but in general really, really well done. So maybe, is that a cop-out? I'm going to go with it. Burn temporarily until the series is finished, and then it'll be miraculously recovered from the ashes. And so I guess with the Broken Empire series, I don't really know what I would rewrite with it, but it was really fast-paced, well done, so maybe, if anything, actually just slowing down a little bit. I didn't mind it being so fast, but kind of adding more I think would have been interesting. But yeah, I didn't. This was another really difficult decision on these last ones, so that's what I'm gonna go with there. This is not an easy challenge. I didn't expect it to be, but it's hard going through a bunch of books and series that I like and trying to pick out like that. But this was pretty fun, I thought, to do. Let me know in the comments if you agree, disagree, what you would have done with the choices and why. Would be really interested to hear. I don't think there's really any wrong answers because I didn't feature any not really, really good book or series for this, so it would be interesting to hear. If you do watch this, let me know if you like this sort of content. This is the first time I've done anything other than a book review, other than the Stormlight Reread book videos I'm doing right now. So it's something that I'm trying out. I thought it seemed fun, and if no one watches it, no one watches it. If you do watch it and want to see more, definitely let me know down below. If you want to see my additional content, then feel free to subscribe. And if you like this video, feel free to give it a like.